So my name is Dennis Gill with the Americans in Wartime Experience. Today's date is 27 May 2022, and I'm in Gainesville, Virginia, and I've got the pleasure of speaking with Georgia Antignano. Thank you, ma'am, for sitting down and talking to us. If you could just give us a little bit of history about yourself. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in College Point, New York, and I stayed there, went to school there, did everything there, and then I graduated, and when I graduated I went to work in a bank where my father was working.
Right.
And I worked in the bank until the day I enlisted in the Army.
Okay. What year were you born?
1921.
1921. Okay. Could you before you enlist in the Army, can you tell us a little bit about Pearl Harbor? What do you remember about that day?
Oh, I was we were visiting in New Jersey, some relatives. We heard about it on the car as we're driving.
Okay.
And we were shocked. When I got home, I found my father there, crying over it. He was a very sensitive man,
Right.
and he thought it was a terrible thing. Of course it was.
Right.
And that's all I know about it, you know. And just followed the news from then on. I've been to Washington to see the Pearl Harbor, 2 or 3 times,
Right.
with him being in the service.
Right.
And it was terrible.
Is that why you decided to enlist?
Pardon?
Is that why you decided to enlist, because of Pearl Harbor?
No, I just wanted to get away from home.
Okay.
Because I was left with my father died at 49 years old. And after he died, my mother coddled me, and she felt that he left me, and she was after me all the time, and I just wanted to get away. So they tell me I almost killed my mother when I left, because then she was alone. I have sisters, but I lived with my mother, you know. So anyway, after that, that's all I know, except any time I hear about it, I saw all the movies on it, and I still think of it all the time when we have Pearl Harbor Day.
Right.
And I thought it was awful.
Yeah.
And that's about, and by then, I don't know, I don't remember what day that was, in 42 or 40, because I was out at 1944.
Right.
Yeah. But I remember that day very distinctly in the car, you know, and going home. I was visiting friends with my fiance's family.
Right.
At that time. So that's all I know about Pearl Harbor until I saw it in Washington when they were living there.
Right.
And because I used to go and spend all my summers with them, and every holiday or whenever I could, I'd go down to be with my son and his wife.
So what year did you enlist?
In 1942.
1942, and it was the Army, but it was different, right? Because you were.
It was when it was the WAAC.
Okay.
And I think it was about a year later when they changed over to WAC, and everybody had to get discharged from the WAC. And there were people that didn't want to go to the WAC, so they quit the Army. They were glad to get out.
Right.
So that was an out. Anybody could have gotten out, but I liked the Army.
Right. Did you have any other relatives that were in the military at the time? Anybody else that served during World War II?
Yeah, my fiance.
Okay.
And then when did you join the service?
Well, after World War II.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I meant. But that's the only one of the family that was in the service.
With your fiance? And where did he serve?
He served in Bougainville.
Okay.
Guadalcanal and then Bougainville.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he was shot. Got
Then he
a
was
$1
shot.
million wound in Bougainville.
I got you.
And then that's
brought him
when
home.
the Army told me that he was going to be discharged. And then they talked to me, and the Army got us together. We had pictures taken and everything, all gone, all my pictures. And they got us to go back to College Point, where we got married in 1944 in College Point.
Okay.
And I used to go back and forth to Brooklyn after I was married until I got discharged.
Okay. So tell me about the Army for you. What was it like? Did you have to go to basic training and everything that the men would do?
I took basic training. We took it in Iowa. Freezing weather. We'd be walking. We'd have to go out on, walks, Our legs would crack open. It was so cold in Des Moines at that time. And we were living in men's barracks. And they weren't the best.
Right.
We used to go to the men's bathrooms. Everything was their clothing until finally they got a WAC and they got us uniforms as soon as they could. Because, as I said, it was one of the first WAC outfits up in Iowa.
Okay. So, how was the training different from men? You didn't learn how to shoot or anything like that, right?
Yeah, we did everything.
You did? Okay.
We did everything, did all the physical training, and we went into the, where you get the gas chamber.
Gas chamber, okay.
And as they wouldn't let me go in the gas chamber after the first time because I had a bad ear.
Okay.
And when they said I should never have been in the Army, but I was taken. But this bad ear, I never went into gas chamber after the first time because I was choking and it was awful.
Right.
And we did everything else.
You did everything.
I was a staff sergeant. I was a drill sergeant. I was a bugler.
Okay. When you were in basic training, was it men that were training you, or were there other women?
It was both men and women.
Okay.
But I worked in an office, so I was with, where I was a classification, and we just send all the newcomers and interview them like you're doing me, and then I would assign them jobs in the Army.
Okay.
Until I was transferred to, I went down south. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but then from there I went to Fort Dix.
From Iowa to Fort Dix.
And I stayed there until they sent me to Seattle, Washington in the finance department.
Okay.
And then I stayed there until I was sent home after my fiance was shot. And he came over and they took care of him there with me. They treated us royally, took pictures of us, did everything for us. They called us the girl going home to marry a Marine hero. He was in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And then that's it until I got out.
So what were your duties in the Army?
Because I got a PFC pretty fast because I was in charge of a lot of people.
Okay.
And I would, as I told you, I drew drill sergeant. I used to do that. I used to go to the parades, and well, that's all I can remember, being a classification specialist. As I tell you, interview all the newcomers, and then we give them jobs.
Give them jobs.
And that was my job.
So as a drill sergeant, were you also tasked with training?
Huh?
Were you tasked with training new people?
No. Every one of us had to go to drill sergeant practice.
Oh, okay.
Everyone had to, and then they picked them. I really liked that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I like being a bugler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about being a bugler.
Hmm?
Tell us about being a bugler.
Well, I
Something you
used
did
to have
before
to
the
get up to wake them up in the morning,
Okay.
and then to play reveille at nighttime.
Okay.
And I did that only in Seattle. I mean, only in Des Moines
Okay.
until I was sent to Wake Forest College from Seattle, but that was later on. And I went there because of the bugle. I don't know why. They sent me, that's where finance training was.
Okay.
And then the two men buglers and I would play together on the parade grounds and everything.
Okay. Did you have a musical background going into the Army?
I was a trumpet player in church,
Gotcha. Okay.
but not a perfect one, but
Right.
they knew that. So I played the bugle. And that was nice. I enjoyed that. I'd get up early in the morning, wake them up. They hated me.
Right.
They don't mind the one at night, but the one in the morning, they didn't like
I
that.
like that one.
That was while I was in that
Right. That's
detachment.
That's interesting. So tell me about life. What was life like in the Army? Especially for a female.
Oh, I thought it was very good. After your day's work, you had free time. You could do what you want to, whatever you want to. And they had all kinds of entertainment, movies and everything. But this was all in Iowa for my basic training.
Right.
As I tell you, it was so cold. It was an awful time to do basic training. I used to freeze all the time, never warm.
Never warm.
And of course, we didn't have the proper clothing either for men's clothing.
Right.
So that was only the first 6 months or so. And then when we became WAC, we all got new uniforms and everything.
Okay.
But otherwise, give me my picture.
It's on the table there.
It's in there with the, oh, no, there it is. That was the old uniform. If you can see it, they don't wear
You can hold
anything.
that up for the camera. There we go.
They don't wear anything like that now. Oh, they did when they got it. I never wore the new ones. I was out of the Army before they got new uniforms. You know, the regular Army uniforms.
So was it when you first went in, it was the wax?
What?
What was it called when you first went in?
WAAC.
Okay, and then at what point did it change?
I would say like a year or I'm not sure.
Okay.
I was in this WAAC a long time, and then finally they got the notice that everybody was going to be turned over, and you had to get discharged out of one, and you have to take all the precautions and go into WAC.
Okay.
Had to do everything. Everything that was, they wanted, we did. And when we were in WAC, I was still, what I told you and everything that I said, I was only a bugler until I went to Massachusetts. Then I was in finance. I was in finance almost all the time.
Right.
Always in an office job. And we used to have training every day. I used to like the drilling. And everybody would do it. And they'd let you, and then they'd pick who they wanted to do it, Up 2, 3, 4, up 2, 3, 4.
So you would practice marching
Yeah,
and things like that every day.
yeah.
Okay.
So outside of that, it was just a normal day. You go to work, and whatever they had set, you had to follow. You know, anything special that you had to go to or anything you had to go. But and I always lived with the people in the whole barracks at the beginning. And then when I was moved, I had always a roommate in a room.
Okay.
We had roommates after once we moved out of Iowa. And I was in there like that until just moved from place to place. I don't think of anything except going to school. They sent me there. And that was nice. Wake Forest College. That was nice. We were there, I think, for 6 months for the finance training. But it was a nice place, you know. And that's about all I can remember of that.
What did you do for entertainment when you weren't working?
Well,
For recreation?
Well, we'd always go to the recreation hall, and there we would meet with friends, and everybody was there. We'd dance, we'd do anything, everything. That was recreation. We could go off the base. We could go into town when we had a pass. You have to have a pass for everything when you went into town. And we'd eat out. That's all. That's about all we did. We didn't do anything exciting. Just the normal things that you would do whether you were a civilian or not.
Right. Were you able to keep in touch with your fiancé when he was overseas? Could you write letters and get letters from him?
Oh, yeah. And then I sent him a Dear John letter. While I was in Massachusetts, I went with another fellow, and we decided that we would, get married. We did get married, but not then. But anyway, that's what I did. I did send a Dear John letter, and I was told that they went berserk when they got it. He went berserk. But he came back. That was after. That was when did I send him the Dear John letter? When I first met Tony, yeah. And that was before I got married. But then later on, when he came back to Seattle after being wounded, then we got together and we decided to go home to get married.
So you ended up getting married?
We ended up getting married, and I lived with him until I got a divorce, so I don't even remember when that was. Anyway, and then he died, and then my second husband, I lived with him for 12 years, and he died. And then I've been, for 37 years now, I've been a widow.
Is there anything that, any events that stand out to you during your time in the Army? Anything either good or bad that you really remember more than anything else?
I don't remember anything bad. No, I don't remember anything. The normal procedures, if you didn't like something, you had to do it if it was,
Right.
And I never did anything bad. But that was about all I can tell you about that.
Were you able to follow, or did you follow what was going on in the war over in Europe?
Oh, yeah. We had bulletins, yeah. And we were always looking for what was happening over there.
Right.
And while my fiance was over there, the fellow, the one from Massachusetts, he was over there in the Army.
Okay.
He was with Eisenhower.
Right.
Yeah.
Were a lot of the women that you served with, did they have relatives that were overseas fighting?
No, I don't remember too many relatives being over there.
Okay.
No, I don't remember. And my fiance, he had volunteered from school.
Right.
And the second one, he was drafted. The Army one was drafted.
Okay.
That was after the other one. You know, I had married the other one. But outside of that, I don't remember any relatives. We used to go home when we were in Massachusetts. We used to go home on weekends we'd catch the train right nearby, and it begins with a G. I forget the name. Right there, and we'd come back and forth for the weekend.
Okay.
And that's how I met my second husband, on the train.
Okay.
Going back and forth from Massachusetts to College Point.
Okay. Okay. Was this before or after you went to Wake Forest?
Oh, that was, I think that was before I went to Wake Forest. No, because I went from Massachusetts to Seattle.
Okay. And when did you get out of the Army?
What did I get out?
No, when did you get out?
Oh, the day before Armistice Day in
Okay.
November.
Gotcha. Okay.
Then November the 10th, I guess, 1944.
9th.
Yeah,
Did you ever consider making a career out of the Army?
I liked the Army. I wanted to stay in, yes.
Okay. What led you to get out?
Huh?
What led you to get out?
Yeah, well, I got a discharge because of my fiance. He
Okay.
was wounded and he needed help at home.
I see.
So they got me a dependency discharge. But it says honorable discharge on my...
Right. But that's what prompted you to get out, was your fiance
Yeah,
needed to go.
right.
Okay. And did he recover completely?
He recovered. He could use his arm and his leg, you know,
Okay.
his arm, whatever. He was okay. We just... but he got out. I don't remember when he got out. Well, I guess he was discharged when he was wounded,
Right.
you know, when he got home.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we did get married. He was still wounded when we got married because on our honeymoon he went there all with everything, you know, wounded.
Right.
And that's all I can tell you about that.
Well, looking back on it, how do you think that your time in the military, in the Army, how do you think that shaped your life?
Oh, I just think it was one of the greatest things I did. And I was glad I did it, and I was sorry I had to get out.
Right.
But that was unfortunate, the way it happened.
Yeah. Did you have a sense that you were contributing to the war effort?
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, we were all in the war effort, yeah.
Sense of pride that you were making a difference?
Oh, yeah, right.
One of the reasons that we do these interviews is to preserve your story for 100 years in the future. What message would you like to send someone that might be watching this in 100 years about your service?
I think that my service was just a separate part of my life. I don't think it had anything to do with anything. I think that was a separate part of my life, and when it was over, I was sorry it was over,
Right.
and I just had to leave it.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. I think it was a wonderful life. I liked it because I had a good job, and everything I did, I had no problem with. Oh, and I had my tonsils out in the, while I was in the service. And while I was in the hospital, the day I had my tonsils out, I went in and they gave me a Novocaine or whatever it was, said you won't feel anything. So while they were cutting my tonsils out, I'm screaming, I feel it, I feel it, I feel it. And then I took the blood thing and I threw it in the guy who was operating on me. And the next morning I was afraid to face him because what I had done to him. But they realized that I really couldn't have, I had the pain, I couldn't stand it. But that was my only bad experience in the Army, getting my tonsils out. Because I had so many earaches all the time.
Right. And that was an Army doctor doing that?
Pardon?
That was the Army that did that surgery?
I was in the Army.
Yeah, okay.
And I never got, and the one who did it, who operated, he came to me and he knew that I felt it. And he was sorry, And especially, I was afraid to face him because I threw the whole thing full of blood in right at him while he was operating on me. That's my biggest bad thing in the Army.
Right. Well, that's pretty good then, if that's the only thing that happened that was bad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Everything else in my Army was good.
Right. So
I had no problem with the Army. Never had any problem with the Army, except that one thing.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about that we didn't talk about?
No, I don't think so. I did everything. I think I told you everything I know. And when I was discharged, then I got married. And we were married until, I don't know, but I married my man I sent Dear John to. Mm-hmm. I sent my Dear John to the second one in Massachusetts, and he's the one that they said he went berserk. He was throwing things, he was screaming, he was so angry. So I met him on a train about maybe 2 or 3 years after I was in the Army, and I was afraid to face him, but he was very nice when we saw each other. I did see him afterwards.
Right.
And let me see, anything else I can say?
Anything that you think we need to cover?
Huh?
Well, her second husband.
I find the second husband is the one I sent to Dear John after I divorced my first husband. I went with my second husband 12 years before we got married.
But he had been wounded in the Battle of the Bulge.
He was in the Battle of the Bulge.
Wow.
He was shot in the leg, and they had no record of his injuries so that he could collect on it because it all burned up. All the records burned up.
Right, in St. Louis?
Yeah, and no matter how we tried to get some help, get something for him, no lawyer could get it because there was no proof of anything except his word.
Right, wow.
But outside of that, then he died. And that was in '86. And now it's 22.
Well, on behalf of the Americans of Wartime Experience, thank you for sitting down and talking to us. And thank you for your service.
Okay, thank you. But I
Truly part of the greatest generation.
as I say, I'm 101 now. And I never believed that I'd ever reach this age.
Right. I don't think any of us do, really.
I've been very fortunate. I haven't been sick a lot.
Right.
no, no operations or anything except my tonsils. And I forgot about them until I started remembering.
Right.
That was the worst thing that happened to me. Well, the rest is good. I made staff sergeant very fast. I don't know how fast I went from private to PFC to corporal, second corporal I think it was, and then finally sergeant. I wanted to go for the top sergeant. I don't know what that is. Above staff sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I got out, and I had to go back to corporal so I could go sent to Brooklyn, where they only had a corporal spot for me.
Okay.
And that's how come I got discharged as a corporal.
So you took a demotion so you could move to a different.
Yeah.
Right.
That was all part of it. They'd get me over, they'd do everything, but I had to take a discharge.
Right.
Not a discharge, a demotion.
Right.
Yeah. And as I said, both of my husbands died, and that was about 36 years ago or something. But when I think of I was in the Army 75 years ago, that's unreal.
Yeah. A lifetime ago.
There's not too many can say that.
No.
But I met a lot of good friends in the Army, and I used to keep track of all of them. But then making moves, I lost addresses and everything, I moved a lot.
Right.
Yeah. But outside of that, I can't think of anything bad about the Army. I enjoyed it, and I didn't want to get out.
And I can imagine you're probably one of the last ones left.
But
I said I can imagine that you're probably one of the last ones left from your unit.
Right.
From that time.
right. But anyway, that's my career. It was only 2 years, but I had a good 2 years. And I went from Des Moines, I went back to Seattle, and then Seattle and Brooklyn, where I was, and then New Jersey, where I was discharged in Fort Dix. And I was discharged the day before the Marine Corps.
Birthday, November 9th, yeah.
Yeah, it was November 9th. And that's all.
And her family is all military. Her, like
Pardon?
you said, her husband, number 1, was a Marine. Number 2 was Army.
Yeah.
So my dad, the Marine. I was a Marine. My son was a Marine.
Okay.
My son-in-law was a Marine. My son-in-law's brother was a Marine. And I married a Navy nurse.
Okay, so did Gary. Gary married a Navy nurse. I married a Marine and an Army. And our grandson is a Marine, and his father was a Marine.
That's your son, that's me.
Yeah. I mean, your father was a Marine. We have Marines, too. We have a three generations.
Yeah, your granddaughter's husband.
Oh, yeah, my granddaughter's husband is Marine.
And his brother.
And his brother's a Marine. And my daughter-in-law was the only one in the Navy.
Right.
So we had Army and just no Army, Navy, and Marine in our family.
And it all started with you.
Yep.
Yep.
I guess so. It all started with me, right? I don't think of it that way.
Well, again, on behalf of Americans of Wartime Experience, thank you for sitting down and talking to us. It was a pleasure to meet you.